Engagement day. You dream about it for years. The perfect moment where everything falls into place. For me, it was supposed to be the happiest day of my life. I was about to marry the love of my life and nothing could ruin it, right? Well, I was wrong. The day started like any other. I woke up feeling butterflies in my stomach, ready to step into a new chapter of my life. My fiancé, Aaron, was by my side, excited, nervous, but all in all, everything seemed perfect. The venue was set, my dress was flawless, and the guests were starting to fill the hall. I couldn't believe this day had finally arrived. But then, as I walked into the room to meet my mom, everything took a turn. My heart was racing, not because of excitement, but because of what was about to happen. My mom, standing by the table with all the engagement gifts, looked at me in a way I hadn't seen in years, her eyes filled with disappointment, with anger. She didn't smile or say a word when I entered. Instead, she looked at me, then at the beautiful diamond ring on my finger, then back at me and shook her head. "Aren't you going to tell me where you got this?" she said, her voice sharp and cold. The guests in the room immediately fell silent. I blinked, completely confused. "What do you mean, Mom? This ring is from Aaron, you know that," I said, trying to hold it together. "It's for our engagement." But she wasn't hearing it. "I don't think this is from Aaron," she snapped, her eyes narrowing. "Where did you really get it, Nova? What did you do to get your hands on this? Tell me the truth. Did you steal it?" I stood there frozen. The words hit me like a slap in the face. Steal? What was she talking about? Why would she accuse me of something like that? It didn't make any sense. My mind started racing. This was my engagement day, the day I was supposed to feel celebrated, loved, and supported. But instead, I was facing accusations of theft from my own mother. Everyone in the room was now staring at me. The whispers started, murmurs of disbelief and confusion. My mom's voice got louder. "Answer me, Nova. How did you afford this ring? Tell me the truth." I could feel the anger boiling inside me. How could she say something like this? She was supposed to be my biggest supporter, the one person who would stand by me no matter what. And yet, here she was, accusing me of stealing on my engagement day in front of everyone. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my composure. "Mom, this is from Aaron, okay? I don't know what's going on with you, but why would I steal anything from anyone? This is supposed to be a celebration, not an interrogation." But her face didn't soften. Instead, she took a step closer, her voice even colder now. "You've always been a disappointment, Nova. Always trying to live up to expectations that don't belong to you. Now you're trying to deceive everyone by pretending you earned something you didn't deserve." I was stunned. I couldn't even comprehend what was happening. This wasn't the mom I knew. This wasn't the woman who had supported me through thick and thin. It felt like someone else had taken her place. I was about to speak up to defend myself, but then something inside me snapped. I wasn't going to stand here on the most important day of my life and let her do this to me. So I took a deep breath and walked over to the table where the engagement gifts were scattered. Everyone was still watching, waiting for my response, but I didn't care about their opinions anymore. I had to deal with this. I picked up my phone from the table, opened the photo album, and showed her the pictures. "Look at this, Mom," I said, my voice steady but full of resolve. "This ring, the one you're accusing me of stealing, was picked out by Aaron. He proposed to me with it. He loves me. This isn't some trick. This isn't some scheme to deceive you. You think I'd steal from anyone? You think I'd do that to my own family?" Her face turned pale as she looked at the pictures. But I wasn't done. "And if you really think that I would do something like this, then maybe you don't know me as well as you think you do. But you should know this, Mom. I'm not the same girl who always tried to live up to your expectations. I'm not the same girl who silently took your criticism and didn't speak up. I'm done with that." I stood there, waiting for her reaction, knowing that I had just said something that could change everything. I had never talked to her like that before, but I wasn't about to let her ruin my engagement, my life, or the happiness I had worked so hard to build. Her face slowly softened, but I could tell the damage had already been done. The damage had been done when she chose to accuse me, without a second thought, without even asking me. In that moment, I realized something painful. This wasn't just about the ring. This was about something much deeper. But that's a fight for another time. For now, I had to take control. This wasn't just about defending myself. It was about standing up for my future. And no matter what happened next, I wasn't going to let her steal my joy. I wasn't going to let anyone steal it. The truth was out now, and nothing would ever be the same again. The room had gone completely silent, the tension hanging in the air like a thick fog. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest, but I wasn't backing down. I had shown my mom the truth. She had seen the photos, the proof, everything. But the anger in her eyes wasn't gone. In fact, it seemed to have only grown. She wasn't even looking at the pictures anymore. She was looking at me, as if I had just betrayed her. I could feel everyone in the room watching, waiting for the next move. It wasn't just about me anymore. It was about the entire family watching this confrontation unfold, wondering what would happen next. For the first time, I felt exposed. This wasn't just a disagreement. This was something much more profound. This was about trust, respect, and the realization that my mom didn't see me for who I was. I watched her, waiting for her to say something, to apologize, to somehow make this right. But instead, her face hardened, and the words she spoke next were cold, cutting like a blade. "You always think you're so perfect, Nova," she said, her voice tight with barely contained anger. "But you're just like everyone else. Always trying to prove something, trying to show you're better than the rest of us. This ring, this whole engagement, everything is just another way for you to make me feel like I'm wrong." Her words hit me like a slap in the face. I opened my mouth to respond, but nothing came out. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. After everything I had done, everything I had sacrificed, I was still just a disappointment in her eyes. And in that moment, I realized something that hurt more than anything. This wasn't about me. This wasn't about the engagement or the ring or the fact that I had worked so hard to build a life for myself. This was about her own insecurities, her inability to see past her own narrow worldview. "I'm not trying to make you feel anything, Mom," I finally managed to say, my voice trembling with emotion. "I'm just living my life. I'm trying to build something real, something that's mine. But you keep putting me in this box, telling me who I am and what I'm supposed to be." She didn't respond right away, but I could see the tension in her face. She was fighting something, maybe guilt, maybe regret, maybe just the realization that she had pushed me too far. But whatever it was, it didn't come out in the way I hoped. She was too proud to admit she was wrong. "I'm not the person you want me to be," I continued, my voice growing steadier with each word. "And I'm tired of trying to be. I've always tried to make you proud. but I've never been enough for you. So why should I keep pretending?" The room seemed to hold its breath as I spoke those words. My mom's expression softened just slightly, but the walls she had built around herself were too thick for me to break down so easily. She opened her mouth to say something, but before she could, my fiancé Aaron stepped forward, his hand on my shoulder. "Nova's right," he said, his voice calm but firm. "She's worked hard for everything she has, and she deserves to be proud of it. No one should be accused of stealing something they didn't take, especially not on their engagement day. This should be a time of celebration, not accusation." My mom looked at him, her eyes narrowing. "I'm not the one who needs to be taught a lesson by you," she snapped. But there was no real conviction in her voice. It was more of a reflex than anything. Aaron stood his ground, never breaking his gaze. "Maybe you need to understand that you're not the only one in Nova's life who matters. She's not some little girl you can control anymore. She's an adult, and she's making her own decisions. And if you keep pushing her away, you're going to lose her." The silence in the room was deafening. My mom's face contorted in frustration, but there was nothing she could say that would undo what had already been done. She had crossed a line, and she knew it. It wasn't just the accusation. It was everything that had led up to this moment. The constant judgment, the subtle criticisms, the way she had never really seen me for who I was, and I was done letting it slide. My mom finally sighed, the anger in her eyes fading, replaced with something more vulnerable. "I didn't mean to hurt you, Nova," she said quietly, almost as if she were speaking to herself. "I don't know how to—" But I didn't wait for her to finish. I didn't need to hear more empty apologies. What I needed was action, not words. "I know, Mom," I replied, my voice softening despite myself. "But you have to let me go. Let me make my own mistakes. Let me live my life, and maybe, just maybe, you'll see that I don't need your approval to be happy." The tension in the room hadn't completely disappeared, but for the first time, I felt like I was finally being heard. I wasn't some child begging for her love anymore. I was an adult, standing on my own 2 feet, and it was time for her to see that. As the conversation wound down, I knew we weren't finished, that there were still things to work through. But for now, I had said my piece, and I had done something I never thought I would do. I had taken control. The truth had been exposed, and nothing would ever be the same again. The days after that confrontation with my mom were strange. There was a heaviness in the air that I couldn't shake, but there was also this strange sense of relief, like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. I had spoken my truth, stood up for myself, and for the first time in my life, I didn't feel like I was seeking anyone's approval. I felt like I had finally stepped into my own. But even with that weight lifted, the silence between my mom and me lingered. The awkwardness wasn't gone, and I knew it wouldn't be easy to repair the damage that had been done, especially with the emotional walls we both had built over the years. I didn't expect things to change overnight, but I knew this was a turning point, a major one. It had to be. The next few days were quieter than usual. My mom didn't bring up the engagement ring, and I didn't push her to. I wasn't looking for another apology or explanation. I didn't need her to explain herself anymore. I just needed to know that she was willing to meet me halfway. But that silence was uncomfortable, and it made me feel like we were both walking on eggshells, trying to avoid another confrontation. A week passed before anything significant happened. It was a Sunday morning, and I was sitting in the living room going over some wedding details with Aaron. The wedding was still a few months away, but I was starting to get overwhelmed with the planning, the guest lists, and everything else that came with the territory. I was looking forward to the big day, but at the same time, there was still this knot in my stomach about my mom. As Aaron and I talked about the details, I heard footsteps behind me, and I turned to find my mom standing in the doorway. She looked different, softer somehow, and I knew she wasn't here to accuse me of anything. This was different. "Nova," she said, her voice tentative. "Can we talk for a minute?" I nodded, surprised but not opposed. "Of course, Mom. What's up?" She stepped into the room, slowly sitting down across from me. There was a long pause before she spoke, as if she were gathering her thoughts. I waited. I had no idea what she was going to say, but I wasn't going to interrupt her this time. "I've been thinking a lot about our conversation the other day," she began, "and I realize I was wrong. I was wrong to accuse you like that, to make you feel like you had to prove yourself. I've spent so much of my life putting my expectations on you, on what I thought you should be, and I've never really given you the chance to just be who you are." I sat back, taken aback by the sincerity in her voice. I had heard apologies from her before, but this was different. It wasn't just words. It felt real. "Mom," I said softly, "I don't need you to apologize for everything, but I do need you to understand that I'm not going to keep living under that pressure. I need you to respect my choices, even if they're not the ones you would make." She nodded, her eyes softening. "I know, Nova, and I think, deep down, I've always known that. But I was scared. I was scared of losing you, scared of not being needed anymore. I didn't know how to let you go, let you make your own decisions without feeling like I was losing you." I felt my chest tighten as she spoke. "I'm not going anywhere, Mom," I said, my voice quiet. "But I can't keep living for you. I have to live for me. I've spent so long trying to meet your expectations, and I've neglected my own happiness in the process." She reached out and took my hand, her touch unexpectedly gentle. "I know. And I'm sorry for making you feel like you had to choose between me and your own happiness. I've realized that I don't want to control you anymore. I want to support you, no matter what choices you make." Her words hit me harder than I expected. It was like she was finally seeing me. Not the daughter she had molded, not the girl she had expected me to be, but me, as I was. I wasn't perfect, and I wasn't the version of myself that she had imagined. But I was me, and for the first time, it felt like she was accepting that. "I don't want to lose you, Nova," she said, her voice breaking slightly. "But I understand now that I can't hold on to you like I've been doing. You're your own person, and you deserve to live your life on your terms." I squeezed her hand, not knowing what to say. The walls between us, the ones that had been built up over the years, were beginning to come down. Slowly, but surely, we were finding a way to rebuild. It wasn't going to be perfect, and I knew it wouldn't happen overnight, but for the first time, I felt like we were finally on the same page. We were both learning how to let go. Her, of her control over me, and me, of the anger and resentment I had been holding on to for so long. "Thank you, Mom," I whispered, feeling tears well up in my eyes. "I think we can get through this. I just need you to believe in me, the way I've always believed in you." She smiled, the sadness in her eyes lifting. "I do, Nova. I really do." In that moment, I realized that healing wasn't just about fixing the past. It was about moving forward, It was about learning to let go of old expectations, to accept each other for who we were, and to start fresh. The road ahead wasn't going to be easy, but it felt like we had finally taken the first step toward rebuilding a relationship based on mutual respect, trust, and love. And for the first time, I felt like I wasn't just fighting for my future. I was fighting for us, the future of our relationship, the future of my happiness, and the future of me being true to who I was. And that was all I needed. The days following my conversation with my mom were different, but not in the way I had expected. There was still an undeniable tension between us, but it wasn't the same kind of tension. It wasn't the suffocating kind that left me feeling like I had to fight for my worth every time I opened my mouth. No, this was the kind of tension that comes when two people who have been stuck in a pattern for years begin to see each other for who they really are. Flaws, struggles, and all. It wasn't easy. My mom still had her old ways, her habits of controlling and criticizing, but there was something else now. A hesitance, a hesitation before she spoke. Like she was waiting for my reaction, like she was waiting for me to tell her that it was okay. But it wasn't okay, not yet. Not until she could show me she respected me for the person I had become, not just the daughter she wanted me to be. A few days later, when we were both at home and my dad was out running errands, my mom and I ended up alone in the kitchen. The silence was comfortable, but there was still something in the air, something unspoken. I was washing the dishes, and she was sitting at the kitchen table, her hands folded neatly in front of her. After a long pause, she finally spoke. "Nova, I've been thinking. I think I need to let you make your own decisions. I can't keep holding on to you like I have." I stopped what I was doing, turning toward her. The words were simple, but the weight behind them was heavier than I expected. "Mom, I know it's not easy. You've always been the one to guide me, to tell me what to do," I said, trying to keep my tone steady. "But I'm not a child anymore. I'm an adult. I need to live my life for me." She nodded slowly, her eyes full of something I hadn't seen in a long time. Regret, maybe, or maybe just an understanding that she was losing her grip on me. "I've been trying to hold on to you, to protect you from making mistakes. But I see now that the only way for you to grow is for me to let go. I don't want to keep controlling you. You need to make your own choices, even if they're not the ones I would make." I could feel the tears welling up in my eyes, but I held them back. This was a moment of understanding, something I had been waiting for, but something I never expected to come. For years, I had been begging for her to see me as the person I was, not just the daughter she expected me to be. And now, finally, she was seeing me. "I'm not perfect, Mom," I said softly. "I don't always make the right decisions, but I need the freedom to make them for myself." She looked at me, her face softening. "I know, and I'm sorry for not letting you do that sooner. I was too afraid of losing you, afraid of what would happen if I let you make your own mistakes." "You can't protect me from everything, Mom," I said gently. "I have to live my life, make my own mistakes, and learn from them. That's how I grow." We sat there in silence for a moment, the weight of everything between us slowly starting to lift. It wasn't perfect and it wasn't easy, but I felt a shift toward something healthier, something more real. For the first time in a long time, I felt like we were finally seeing eye to eye. "You know, Nova," she said, breaking the silence, "I was thinking about the wedding. I've been so caught up in everything, and I didn't realize how much I've been holding you back. I want to help. I want to support you. in the way you need me to, not the way I think I should." My heart skipped a beat. This was the moment I had been waiting for, when she finally saw me, not as a reflection of her desires, but as a person with my own life, my own dreams. "That would mean a lot to me, Mom," I said quietly. "I just need to know that you're here for me, no matter what." "I am," she said, her voice steady. "And I'm sorry for making you feel like you had to fight for that." For the first time in years, I felt like I was finally being heard. Like I wasn't just a piece of her life that she needed to control, but a real person with my own choices, my own path. I wasn't perfect, and I still had a long way to go, but I was learning how to stand up for myself, to not let anyone, including my mom, take my happiness away. "You don't have to apologize anymore," I said, smiling for the first time in a long while. "We're figuring it out, and I think we're getting there." She smiled back, a genuine, warm smile that made everything feel a little lighter. "Yeah, I think so too." And for the first time, I felt a sense of peace. It wasn't about having everything figured out or everything being perfect. It was about knowing that we could move forward together with mutual respect and knowing that we both had room to grow. As I finished the dishes and we sat in comfortable silence, I realized that this wasn't just about my engagement, or the ring, or the accusations. It was about learning to set boundaries, learning to stand up for myself, and learning to forgive, not just my mom, but myself too. The weeks that followed felt like a slow but steady healing process. My mom and I had made progress, but it was clear that it wasn't going to be an overnight change. The wounds we had both carried were deep, and even though we were trying, it would take time to completely rebuild the trust between us. But for the first time, I felt like we were finally moving in the right direction. We were talking more, listening more, and, most importantly, understanding each other more. As the wedding day approached, the tension between us began to ease. My mom was starting to take a more hands-off approach, allowing me to make decisions without constantly offering her opinion. It wasn't easy for her, and there were moments when she would slip into old habits, offering advice that wasn't asked for, but I could see that she was trying. I was proud of her for taking a step back and letting me take the lead. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. But despite the progress we were making, I still couldn't shake the feeling that there were some unspoken issues lingering between us. We were still figuring out how to navigate this new relationship, how to truly be there for each other without the old baggage getting in the way. I couldn't help but feel like there was more to this than just the wedding. My mom had always been the one to keep everything together, and now I was realizing that I had to find a way to build my own future without her always being in control. One afternoon, as I was sitting on the couch, going through some last-minute wedding details, my mom came into the room. She had this look on her face, a mix of hesitation and resolve, like she had something important to say but wasn't sure how I'd react. "Nova," she began, her voice soft, "can we talk?" I put down my phone, sensing that this wasn't just about the wedding anymore. "Of course, Mom. What's on your mind?" She sat down beside me, her hands folded in her lap. "I've been thinking a lot about everything, about the way I've been, about the way I've treated you over the years." I felt my chest tighten, but I didn't interrupt her. I could tell this was something she had been holding on to, something that she had finally found the courage to confront. "I know I haven't always been the best mother to you," she continued, her voice wavering. I've been controlling, demanding, and at times, I've pushed you so hard that I didn't realize how much I was hurting you. You've always been so strong, so independent, but I've never really given you the space to be your own person. I've always tried to live through you, Nova, and I've never truly seen you for who you are." Her words hit me harder than I expected. They were like the final pieces of a puzzle falling into place. The pieces of a relationship that had always been broken, but now, somehow, we were starting to see the picture more clearly. "I was always so afraid of losing you, of you becoming something I couldn't control," she said, tears welling up in her eyes. "I didn't want to admit that you were growing up, that you were becoming your own person. But I realize now that I have to let go. I have to let you make your own decisions, even if they're not the ones I would make. I have to trust you." I could feel the tears welling up in my own eyes, but I fought them back. This wasn't about the tears. It was about something deeper. It was about healing, about finally letting go of the resentment and the anger that had built up between us over the years. "I understand, Mom," I said softly. "It's been hard for both of us, but we've been stuck in this cycle. I've always wanted your approval, but I've realized that I can't keep living for you. I have to live for me." She nodded, wiping her eyes. "I know, Nova, and I'm sorry for not realizing that sooner. I never meant to hold you back. I was just scared. But I see now that I need to support you in the way that you need, not the way I think you should be supported." We sat there in silence for a moment, the weight of everything between us finally starting to lift. It wasn't perfect, and it wasn't easy, but for the first time in years, I felt like we were truly on the same page. For the first time, I felt like we were both ready to move forward. We were both learning to let go of the past. "I don't need you to fix everything, Mom," I said gently. "I just need you to believe in me, and I need you to trust that I can make my own decisions. I've got this." She smiled, her face softening as she reached over and placed her hand on mine. "I do believe in you, Nova, and I trust you." In that moment, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. I wasn't just letting go of the past. I was letting go of the old expectations, the old patterns that had always held us back. I was ready to step into my own future, to live my own life, and to build my own path. And for the first time, I felt like my mom was ready to let me. The wedding was still ahead, and there would be more challenges, more bumps in the road. But for the first time, I felt like I could face them with confidence. I wasn't just fighting for my happiness. I was fighting for my future. And I wasn't going to let anyone, no matter how much I loved them, take that away from me. The days leading up to my wedding were a whirlwind. The excitement, the planning, the last-minute adjustments. It felt like my entire life had been leading to this moment. Yet, despite all the joy and anticipation surrounding me, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was still missing. I had made peace with my mom, and for the first time in years, we were working toward a better relationship. But the shadow of the past still lingered in the back of my mind. There was still a part of me that wasn't sure whether I could fully trust her again. As much as I wanted to focus on the happiness of my engagement, the coming together of my family, there was still the nagging fear that something would go wrong. That old habit of expecting the worst kept creeping up on me. But I didn't want to be that person anymore. The one who expected disaster to strike, who lived in the constant shadow of doubt. I wanted to enjoy the moments leading up to the wedding and the life I was about to begin with Aaron. I took a deep breath, walking into the wedding venue for the final rehearsal. The hall was stunning. Everything was coming together just as I had imagined. My bridesmaids, including my best friend Mia, were there helping to arrange the last bits of the decor. There was laughter, excitement, and the kind of energy that comes with a big day ahead. But as I walked toward the front of the hall, my eyes caught sight of my mom, standing near the back, looking at the room with a mixture of awe and apprehension. She looked beautiful, dressed in her formal attire for the wedding, but something in her posture, the way her shoulders were slightly hunched, told me that she wasn't completely at ease. I couldn't blame her. This wedding, the whole process, had been emotionally charged, and I knew that, for all her apologies and efforts to support me, she was still dealing with her own fears, her own guilt. I approached her carefully, not wanting to intrude, but feeling the need to check in. "Hey, Mom," I said softly. "Are you okay?" She turned toward me, her eyes meeting mine with a mixture of vulnerability and gratitude. She smiled faintly, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. "I'm fine, Nova," she said, her voice more hesitant than usual. "Just thinking." "Thinking about what?" I asked, leaning in a little closer, trying to gauge what was going on in her mind. She let out a slow breath. "I've been thinking a lot about how I've treated you, about everything that's happened, and I realize I'm scared." I paused, surprised by her admission. "Scared of what?" She glanced around the room, her eyes scanning the space like she was searching for something. Some sign, some reassurance that everything was going to be okay. Then she looked back at me, her expression softening. "I'm scared of losing you, scared of letting go. You're about to start your own life, and I know it's what's best for you. But it's hard. I've always been there for you, and now I feel like I'm not needed anymore." Her words hit me in a way I didn't expect. I had known that her control over me came from a place of love, but hearing her admit that she was scared of losing me, brought a new perspective. For all the mistakes she had made, for all the times she had held on too tightly, I now understood something that had eluded me before. She was scared because she loved me. She didn't want to lose her daughter, the person she had spent her entire life trying to protect. I placed a hand on her arm, giving it a gentle squeeze. "Mom," I said softly, "you're not losing me. I'm still your daughter. I still need you, but I need you in a different way now. I need you to be proud of me, not just for the choices I make, but for who I've become." Her eyes glistened, and I could see the walls she had built starting to crumble just a little. "I am proud of you, Nova," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "More than you know, I don't know how to let go of the way things used to be." "It's okay," I said, my voice steady. "I know it's hard, but we're both growing. You're learning to let me go, and I'm learning to trust you again. We can be different, and that doesn't mean we're losing each other. It just means we're moving forward, together, in a new way." There was a long pause, and for a moment, neither of us said anything. But I could feel the shift in the air. It wasn't a dramatic moment of closure, but it was a real moment of understanding. We weren't perfect, and there was still work to be done, but we were starting to rebuild, not just our relationship, but the way we saw each other. Finally, she smiled, a real smile that reached her eyes. "I'm going to be okay, Nova, and I'm going to be proud of you tomorrow when you walk down that aisle and start your new life with Aaron. I know you'll be happy." I smiled back, my heart swelling with a mixture of love and gratitude. "Thank you, Mom. I'm just glad you're here. That's all I need." We stood there for a few more moments, just taking it all in: the wedding, the family, the new chapter ahead. But even though the day was fast approaching, and even though there was still so much to do, I felt like everything was falling into place. Slowly, carefully, the pieces of our relationship were coming together. And in that moment, I realized that it wasn't just about the wedding. It was about us, learning how to love each other again. The morning of my wedding day arrived with an overwhelming sense of anticipation. The sun was shining brightly through the windows, and everything seemed to be falling into place. My bridesmaids were buzzing around the house, making sure everything was perfect. Mia, my best friend, was helping me into my dress, while my mom, standing in the corner of the room, looked on quietly. Despite all the excitement, I could still feel the weight of everything that had happened over the past few weeks. My relationship with my mom had changed, and even though things were moving in a positive direction, I knew there were still lingering emotions we needed to address. I glanced at my mom, who stood there silently, her expression a mix of pride and uncertainty. She had been more present, more involved than I had expected, but I could tell she was still trying to process everything, still working through her fears about losing me. I could see it in her eyes. But what surprised me was the look of genuine happiness I saw there, too. It wasn't perfect, and there were still unsaid things between us, but for the first time in a long time, it felt like we were moving forward, together. "Mom, you look beautiful," I said, smiling as I noticed her trying to hide her nervousness. Her hair was done perfectly, and she was wearing the dress she had picked out weeks ago. She looked stunning, but there was something else about her, something softer, as though she had let go of a little bit of the pressure she had been carrying. "Thank you, sweetheart," she replied, her voice trembling just slightly. "You're going to look amazing today. I still can't believe you're getting married." I felt my chest tighten as I looked at her, the weight of the moment hitting me. "I can't believe it either," I said softly. "It's all happening so fast." She stepped closer to me, her eyes softening. "It's all good, Nova. You've worked hard to get to this point, and no matter what, you have me here, right beside you." The words were simple, but they carried so much meaning. For all the pain we had been through, for all the accusations and misunderstandings, here we were. And despite the imperfections, despite the mistakes, my mom was finally giving me what I had always needed: support, understanding, and the permission to move forward on my own terms. I smiled, feeling a sense of peace settle in my chest. "Thanks, Mom. I'm glad you're here." Before she could say anything more, Mia stepped in, a teasing grin on her face. "Come on, you two. Stop getting all emotional on me. We've got a wedding to go to." We all laughed, the tension in the room dissipating for a moment, replaced with the excitement of what was ahead. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. We were real. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like everything was falling into place. Not just with the wedding, but with my life. The relationship with my mom was still a work in progress, but it was a new beginning. As I walked down the aisle with my dad, my heart was racing, but it was different than before. This wasn't the nervousness of being unsure or uncertain. It was the exhilaration of knowing that I had already come so far. My family, though complicated, was here, supporting me, and Aaron was waiting for me at the end of the aisle. I felt a rush of gratitude for everything that had led me here, even the challenges, even the pain. It had all shaped me into the person I was becoming, and I couldn't be more proud of who I had become. Aaron's eyes locked with mine as I reached the altar, and all the noise of the world faded away. It was just the two of us now. This was the moment I had been waiting for. His smile was wide, genuine, and full of love. In that moment, I knew that no matter what happened between my mom and me, no matter what we had gone through, I was making the right choice. I was choosing love. I was choosing my happiness. The ceremony went by in a blur of vows, laughter, and tears. When it was time for us to say our I do's, I felt a sense of calm wash over me. I wasn't just marrying Aaron that day. I was marrying myself. I was committing to the person I had become, the woman who had finally learned to stand up for herself, to take control of her own life. And with Aaron by my side, I knew I was ready for anything. After the ceremony, we moved into the reception, and the energy in the room was electric. My mom, standing with my dad, looked proud. I could see it in the way she held herself, in the way she watched me dance with Aaron. The old worries, the old fears seemed to have lifted. She wasn't holding me back anymore. And for the first time, I could see that she was happy for me, truly happy. The night went on, full of laughter, dancing, and joy. My wedding wasn't just about me and Aaron. It was about my family, my growth, and the healing that had taken place. I had fought for my happiness, for my future, and I had come out the other side stronger than I ever imagined. By the end of the night, as I looked around at the people I loved, I realized something. Life isn't about being perfect, and it's not about avoiding the hard moments. It's about embracing them, learning from them, and using them to shape a better future. My engagement, my wedding, and my relationship with my mom, none of it was perfect, but it was real, and that's all that mattered. The days after my wedding felt like a dream. The honeymoon was peaceful, filled with quiet moments and deep conversations with Aaron. We laughed, we explored, and we enjoyed the peace of our new life. But as we returned home, it was clear that the work wasn't over. My relationship with my mom was still a work in progress, and there were still moments of tension between us. But now there was a sense of mutual respect, a silent understanding that we had both changed. It wasn't perfect, but nothing ever is. And that's when I realized something important. Perfection doesn't exist, and that's okay. What matters is the willingness to grow, to change, and to keep moving forward. My mom and I were learning how to communicate differently, and though it hadn't been an easy road, I knew we were both better for it. Our past mistakes didn't define us anymore. We had a chance to redefine our relationship, and we were both working toward that. One evening, as I was sitting in the living room, scrolling through some wedding photos on my phone, my mom called me. She hadn't called me much since the wedding, but I wasn't surprised. There was still a lot we hadn't talked about, still a lot of things left unsaid between us. I picked up the phone, taking a deep breath. "Hey, Mom," I said, trying to sound upbeat. "What's up?" "Hi, sweetheart," she replied, her voice warm. "I just wanted to check in. I know things have been a bit rocky between us, but I want you to know how proud I am of you. You've come so far, and you're doing great. I'm sorry for everything I've put you through. I know I haven't always been there for you the way you needed me, but I want you to know that I'm trying. I'm really trying." Her words hit me harder than I expected. I had heard apologies before, but this time felt different. It wasn't just words. It was an admission that she had seen me, really seen me for the first time. It wasn't about the past anymore. It was about the future. I know, Mom, I said quietly, my voice full of emotion. I know. And I'm proud of you, too. I'm proud of how much we've both changed. I know it's not always easy, but I think we're finally starting to understand each other. It's not perfect, but that's okay. There was a long pause on the other end of the line. Then she spoke again, softer this time. You're right. It's not perfect, but it's real. And that's what matters. I don't want you to ever feel like you're not enough. You are, Nova. You always have been. I felt tears well up in my eyes, and for the first time in a long time, I allowed myself to feel everything. The relief, the release of old tensions, the gratitude for the progress we had made. It wasn't about forgiveness anymore. It was about acceptance, about knowing that we could both change and move forward together. I love you, Mom, I whispered, my voice shaky. And I'm glad we're getting there. I love you too, Nova, and I'm proud of you, always. After we hung up, I sat there for a moment, letting the weight of the conversation settle over me. There was still a long road ahead. There would still be moments of struggle, of growth, but in that moment, I realized that we had both taken a huge step. We were finally starting to rebuild the relationship that had been fractured for so long. Life is messy, and relationships are complicated. We don't always get everything right, and sometimes it feels like we're just taking one step forward and two steps back. But what matters is that we keep trying, we keep learning, we keep growing, and we never stop fighting for the things that matter: our happiness, our relationships, and our peace of mind. I had learned so much through this journey. I had learned to stand up for myself, to demand the respect I deserved, and to let go of the past that had been holding me back. I had learned to forgive, not just my mom, but myself. I had learned that growth doesn't happen overnight, but it's worth every moment, every step, no matter how hard. If you've enjoyed this journey of self-discovery, family dynamics, and personal growth, make sure to hit that subscribe button to follow more powerful stories. Turn on notifications so you never miss an update. Remember, it's never too late to start over, to rebuild, and to become the person you were always meant to be. You won't believe what happens next. Take control of your own happiness. Keep moving forward and never stop growing.